Now, it would appear I may be in the minority on this situation, but I think this Dexter Lumis and Miz storyline is pretty garbage.
No. Basically, no. You're wrong.
No, well, wait, do you know what? We're going to speak facts straight.
Okay.
We're going to speak facts. No,
We're going to speak facts.
Facts first.
Okay.
Then we'll get into some opinions.
Okay.
But before we do that, hello everyone and welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. I am Luke Owen, D-A-D, and I'm joined by Dan Layton.
Would you believe?
I think people like to have gimmick names. You know, we've got
Yeah, I haven't got one yet.
Got Chopper Pete Quinnell, Tempest. I was thinking of calling you Professor Dan Layton.
I'm with that. Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah.
So we'll take that straight away.
Professor Dan Layton is joining us here for the Raw review. Please do give us the thumbs up. Press the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're watching this live, get in your Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We will read out all of them above the $5 amounts. None of your Canadian or Australian dollars. I don't want them. They stink. And while you're in the process of clicking links, why don't you click the link to this episode's sponsor, Incogni.
Goodness me.
Dan.
Well,
in this episode of Raw, we saw that The Miz had his home invaded.
that's true. That's what happened.
He is in need of protection.
Yeah, you could use it right about now.
He could use
You
some...
could use it last night.
Absolutely, it really could. And actually,
Yeah.
for future reference,
Yeah.
he could do with some protection.
Yeah.
And actually, The Miz doesn't just need protection for his home. He needs protection for his data.
Oh, that's hugely important.
Because in this world, I don't know how many you actually know of this, there are companies out there, nefarious companies, who are buying your data and then are selling that data to other companies, who then buy it from other companies and sell it to other companies, and a big old web of things just spreads around.
And we don't love to see that.
Do
That's
not
the
love to see
opposite
that.
of things we love to see.
Those are things like your name, where you live, your contact number, your social security number, your national insurance number if you're in the United Kingdom, your sex, your sexual preferences. All this sort of thing is data that is being sold by companies to other companies for nefarious means.
Nefarious is exactly the word for it, thank you.
I can't imagine they're buying them for good means.
No nefarious purposes.
But the great thing about the internet is that you actually have the legal right to have that data removed from their databases.
Fight back.
But to do so would take you far too long because there's so many of them. And that is where Incogni comes in, because Incogni is a service that we use here in the WrestleTalk office that basically just goes out. It's a broker for you. They go out and they remove your data from all of these databases.
Like a Hoover.
You're like a little vacuum cleaner. Hoover's a brand name.
Yeah.
And there's a little vacuum. Little vacuum.
Other suction devices are available.
And then basically you get a little email and a little notification. You can log into your dashboard and find out how many cases you've got ongoing, how many have been resolved. It is a fabulous, fabulous little service. And here's the real brilliance of this here. The first 100 people that use our link and use our promo code WTPodcast get 20% off.
20%?
Yeah, the first 100 people to use the link and the promo code WTPodcast.
I love a discount.
Me too. And you've got to be quick. Because if you don't want to be the 101st person.
That no one ever wants to be the 101st person.
Absolutely not. And if you're watching this on demand.
History doesn't remember the 101st person. I'll tell you that now.
So, thank you to Incogni for sponsoring this episode of the WrestleTalk Podcast. On to our topic at hand here, Daniel. Yeah. Professor Daniel Layton.
In future, I'll have a jacket.
And a big top hat, if you don't mind.
Okay, yes. Okay, I was thinking more like Kiehl's or other skincare brands are available. But now maybe Professor Layton with the brown was very the brown hat, big hat. I'll speak in riddles.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps you can solve this riddle for me.
Okay, I'll do my best. Let's endeavor.
I am going to just lay out the facts of this segment.
Go ahead.
Earlier today on the show, that is, The Miz was doing an interview from his house. Brought a camera crew to film an interview at his house because he doesn't feel comfortable being in arenas because Dexter Lumis has abducted him on several occasions. Stroked his hair, ridden with him in the back of the car, where to, Stephanie, and all that jazz. So he is afraid of Dexter Lumis and he wants to do this in his house. In this segment, his children ran up to him in their pajamas.
They did do that.
And The Miz was like, hey, my darling, beautiful children, are you ready to go to bed? And the kid said, yes, Daddy, we are. I love you, Daddy.
Full of adrenaline for going to bed.
Yeah. Oh, well, but kids often are.
I'm not familiar.
They are full of adrenaline. They are happy to see their father. And they are going off.
It was very royal.
It was, and they're going off to be tucked up in bed, presumably by one of Mrs. Housekeepers.
Well, there you go.
Maurice walks in. Maurice, his wife, is also there. And she says, Miz, I don't know what you're worried about. We are very well protected in this house. We've got a huge gate surrounding us. We have security. There's a camera crew here. Nothing bad can happen to this. All the while, there's various shots of Dexter Lumis watching them through the window.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, that's true.
And no one sees him. No one sees him doing this.
Yeah.
And then Miz and Maurice are going to
a premiere. They say a premiere.
A premiere.
They said we got a premiere tonight.
What do you think the premiere was for?
David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future.
That's incredible, which is very apropos for what was about to happen in this segment. So they then leave, and the camera crew stays behind, presumably to pack up.
Right.
And the Miz has just been like, I trust you guys to not steal anything from my house.
Yeah.
We've got security around here.
And we work together.
So I expect you to be gone when we're home from this premiere of David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future. And they leave. And the cameraman turns back to the house. And who is in the house but Dexter Lumis?
Dexter Lumis is in the house.
He's inside. The call is coming from inside the house. And the call is Dexter Lumis in human form.
Yeah.
And he is drawing a picture. Very, very quickly drawing a picture.
I was going to say, I believe he's already drawn it. It looks like he's just signing it.
Oh, is he just signing the picture?
I believe. If we're going to be on facts, Luke, if you're going to preface this with the facts.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Thank you.
He then holds up this picture to the cameraman.
To display.
And he looks directly down the lens. And it's a picture of Ms. and Mrs. and their children.
Yeah.
And he has this look in his eyes that said, I am going to do things to this family.
I don't know. Again, that's conjecture and subjectiveness. The look in his eyes just honestly looks like I have been told I'm not to blink and I'm struggling to keep going.
Yes.
That's the look in his eyes.
Okay, I will stick into the facts then. He drew a picture
he did do that.
of a family with children.
He's a big fan of Ms. and Mrs.
And he held it up to this camera.
Yeah.
And the cameraman did nothing in this scenario.
No. And then the announce team, bar Corey Graves, sort of just moved on.
Acted like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
And Corey Graves,
lost his little mind.
The heel commentator, is sat there being like, what is going on? Why did the cameraman do nothing in this scenario?
That's correct. Yeah. Okay. We've established the fact now.
And Jimmy Smith's like, I mean, coming up next, attention, Dominick Mysterio.
And why are we trying Corey's like, sorry. Yeah, cool.
Those are the facts.
Yes, they are. I can't disagree with you on that.
I, in my review, said, how is this man the babyface? Yeah. And some people have said to me, he is not the babyface.
This is where I was going to come down. We haven't established what he is exactly.
Okay.
I'm not. No one is Right. We don't know what his MO is. We don't know what he's doing.
The Miz won't tell us.
The Miz won't tell us. He might just be like quietly encouraging him. He might just be like, Miz, you're a 2-time Grand Slam champion. You should be not just on a reality television show. Come on, you got it. No, we don't know this. We don't know what he's doing. So how can you assert that he is babyface or heel?
Because he abducted him. and then
he didn't abduct him.
He did. He stole him from the arena one time.
Yeah, I agree. I was in my head. I was imagining he just took a joyride.
No, and he also took a joyride, hid in the back of a man's car.
Allowed Miz to use the carpool lane,
and then broke into a man's home. Broke into his fortress. Apparently,
he just needed the bathroom. Perhaps wanted to present him with a lovely piece of art that he'd drawn,
and then, with his children tucked up into bed.
Yeah, now here we go.
Broke into a house and drew a picture of children.
Yeah, he did do that. Now I will say, untoward from Dexter on that front.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I will point out just a couple of things that are quite heinous and villainous on Miz's part. First of all,
because you're right, 2 wrongs do make a right.
Going to a premiere and not establishing childcare. Leaving all of these people in his house. Do we have a babysitter? Do we have a housekeeper? I'd like to see them on screen.
I would presume that John Morrison is there to babysit.
Great, good, yeah, okay, fine, I'll allow it. But second of all, he offered an interview to these people, knowing full well he had to go to the premiere of David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, it was poor planning on his part.
And then Maurice comes in the middle and is like, well, we've got to leave now. And they didn't even do the interview. The expense that WWE Inc. have gone to arrange this interview to accommodate Miz's insecurities, which he's not telling them why. He's not telling them why. I would argue Miz is the heel.
I mean, I have seen from visual, I'd imagine when he's got insecurities because he was abducted by this man, and this man then hid in the back of his car while he was leaving the arena and has stalked him in matches.
But until he tells us, it's not canon.
But no, but I've seen that bit. Like, I've seen that with my own eyes. I don't have to make up head canon.
But you don't know what's happened afterwards. No, he may have just been like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought this was my car and I was taking a nap and then you drove off and I was scared. We don't know because Miz hasn't told us.
I'm going to try something on this. And I haven't thought this through. I'm going to message Sean Ross Sapp while we're live on air.
And see if he knows what's happened.
Sorry, I'm just going to message Sean live on air. So hold on. Let me just get into my DMs.
Oh, the flex, the name dropping,
Hi.
I could message several people. I could message my friend Jacob and ask what he's got to say.
Hi, Sean. I'm live currently.
Yeah.
Is Dexter Lumis listed as a baby face or heel on the internal roster?
That's not canon.
But we would know how WWE view him.
That's clever.
Because that's what we're looking for here. Because in my eye, the way they are presenting him is that he is the babyface in the scenario going up against their heel Miz.
Well,
and the crowd are popping for him like he is the babyface. And he is getting good reactions. I cannot deny he's getting good reactions for it.
I don't know that I agree with that completely because I do feel like I'm doing my teasing and joking and all of that, but I do think that when I'm watching it, I don't know if it is clear I don't think it's clear as a viewer to me that I'm supposed to be rooting for Dexter Lumis. I'm supposed to be finding him incredibly creepy. The complication here is because it's the Miz, and the Miz is a bit of a slimy dick. Like that's the you know
can't deny that Miz is a bad one.
Miz is a bad.
He is a wrong one.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I don't believe that I'm being presented with Dexter Lumis as a good guy. I don't read that. You know, it's like two bad people.
Just for clarity as well, apparently Maurice's mother still lives with them.
Oh, fabulous. I mean, I'm not up to date on Miz and Mrs.
The mother-in-law was also in this house when this psychopath broke in and drew a picture.
He had already drawn the picture, Luke.
To sign a picture that he'd drawn.
Thank you. And leave it as a gift and said, sorry I abducted you that time. And sorry I stowed away in the back of your car. Here is a nice family portrait. You look pretty happy.
I cannot get on board with this storyline. Like this for me, I really enjoyed Dexter Lumis's first invasion when he showed up. I thought it was a really cool thing. And actually,
they didn't really reference it.
Reference it. They were cutting away from it. And also, I thought it was a really good red herring of AJ because people thought he was targeting AJ, actually targeting the Miz. I thought they'd done some really good misdirection with it. But I think in the last few weeks, the storyline has really fallen off the rails for me. And I don't really know what I'm supposed to think of it now. And I think it is past the of being quite cool and interesting, is now quite goofy and silly.
I do see that. I do, however, also feel like if I'm not perceiving it as babyface, if I'm just reading what I'm given, I think the execution of this was pretty cool. Like there was a lot of like
shots of Dex in the background,
the home invasion, the social anxiety. You're a horror fan, you know this.
Sure,
I wrote a very well received essay on this in my degree. But there was a lot of thank you very much. It was my best. The rest of them were rubbish, but this one was really good.
Talk about name dropping.
Dave McCaig, everybody. Gave me 75. No, there was also to the point where Mrs. Children gave me a jump scare. Like I truly jumped out of my skin when I'm like, oh no, he's there, and then suddenly they're like, hi, and I'm like, whoa!
Oh, children!
Well, I mean, children make me scared anyway, but this was a particular, you know, I thought it was very effective as a sequence. Concede it is complicated if you're trying to figure out alignments or anything like that, but I don't perceive babyface. I perceive heel and unhinged person.
But we are cheering one person over the other.
I'm not cheering.
But the crowd are.
This is true.
The crowd are cheering for Dexter Lumis to invade this man's home while his children are asleep. I want to emphasize this point enough.
Bringing the children in has been
children were asleep in the house.
They really were that.
And this psychopath was there. And you know, you could argue like, oh, it's a bit goofy. Someone said like, oh, you know, the Fiend and this and the other. By the way, like the Fiend was also supposed to be a baddie. He was supposed to be a scary monster villain going up against babyface Seth Rollins, but Rollins was so lame, Rollins ended up turning heel off the back of it.
Yeah.
But it's when you cut back to the commentary desk, Corey Graves' selling of this was like, why did no one do anything? Corey Graves is then pointing out the logic holes of this. And that's like your commentary team and then saying like, well, this doesn't make any sense anymore.
This is the problem. It's sort of like emotional whiplash as the audience, because you're presented with this thing and then suddenly Corey Graves is us. Like he's responding the way we do. And then it's like, oh, God, that is hard. Coming up next, we have this match. And you're just like, what are we going to do with this? And it when you are I think Corey's doing a pretty good job of responding in that moment to something, but it is almost too much, and that then pulls apart the whole.
It unravels.
This isn't actually the only time he did this in the show for me. There was a little bit later on in the women's championship match where I thought his commentary was a little bit too much of the suspension of disbelief unraveling for me. Byron doesn't help anything, but they're just being like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Byron's role is to just cheer the baby faces, but he doesn't know who this is. So he's like,
there's no alignment.
I've no idea.
If they are to be our conduit, if they are to be the ones who are helping us with the story and help us process and understand what's going on, they needed to rehearse that bit, and they need to be directed exactly. I mean, they don't have Vince in their ear anymore, but they need someone being like, Corey, maybe not this much.
For me, this is a storyline that is no longer working. I feel like Corey.
Do you think it's done? Do you think it's dead to you? It won't come back?
No, I think you can salvage this.
Yeah.
Like, I think you just need some like clear direction, clear motive for these characters, a clear alignment for these characters as well. Because if Dexter is not the babyface, then who am I supposed to be cheering for in this feud? Like, if he is a heel and Miz is a heel, then who am I supposed to be rooting for? Because it sure ain't the Miz. Because, like as you said, the Miz is the bad guy in this.
Unless he's also a little bit turning because he's sympathetic, because it's like he's being picked. Do you know what? Is it a slow turn? Is it this situation?
I think the Miz has gone past that point now. We've tried twice with babyface Miz and it's never worked either time.
I like the Miz a lot. Like, I'm very much sympathetic towards the Miz. I think he's vastly underrated.
Okay, well, I mean, you will not fit in here because and by that I think the Miz is bang average.
No, he's a great performer.
Miz, classic 2.5-star wrestler. Yeah, which is grand. You need one of them on the roster. And I'm glad that they've got him and he's been there for 20 years.
2-time Grand Slam champion.
So I still don't know how. Had 4 good matches in his career. I know that might be stretching it, but like, you know, some people are like, oh, do you hate the segment because you don't like The Miz? And I don't think it is. It's what it is for me. It's just like, I can't get past certain aspects of this. And maybe it's just I'm not jiving with the Dexter Lumis character. Like, that's what I'm not on board with currently. Maybe that's where this isn't working.
I think the problem is because there isn't a character. Like, we don't know what his motivation is. And that's a slow burn thing. And I know that we've been dying for a little bit of long-term committed storytelling for a while. We don't really know why he's after The Miz. We don't know what his purpose is. We don't know what he's doing. That probably does add to the dissonance, and then they're like not really latching onto what's going on. But
you see this a lot in horror movies, and when I say this, I mean bad horror movies.
Right.
There is a common misconception with the slasher genre that during the 1980s, people would go to slasher movies to cheer the bad guy. So you would have like people would go to a Halloween movie to cheer on Michael Myers killing some teenagers. You would go to a Friday the 13th movie to cheer on Jason Voorhees killing some bad guys. You know, killing some teenagers and what have you, Freddy Krueger, what have you. There's then been this misconception that kind of was very prevalent in the early 2000s that, oh, in this case then, we are going to make our slasher the hero of the piece by making all of our human teenagers the worst people on earth.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely fine then when this maniac murders them all. Actually missing the point that in the 80s, what directors were looking to do was to create sympathetic teenagers that you don't want to see die. Friday the 13th Part 4, every single person in that like group of friends is a likable personality, and they've all got wants and dreams and hopes and fears, and they've all got these things that they're striving towards, and then Jason comes along and murders them all, and it's like, oh, that's sad because I wanted to see. There's a moment, I think it's Part 2. There's a moment in Part 2 where a girl has sex for the first time with a guy.
And big mistake in a horror film. Never do that.
And then sort of he leaves and he's like, I think this is something really special. And she's like, I think I'm in love. And then she dies. And it's meant to be this like, oh man, she just found love and now she's dead. But
she's
like
bad sex.
Well, yeah. But then like this sort of misconception was just like, no, the way to do our slasher movie correctly is to have assholes, and then it's okay when they kill. And I think that's kind of what we got here as well. Because the Miz is the big bad guy, it is fine that Dexter Lumis is invading his home while his children are asleep and terrorizing him.
Yeah, I see your point. I think Miz being that sort of, rather than him being like an out-and-out bad guy, him being a bit of a, I think that is allowing it to be a little bit more sympathetic to him. This is why I don't feel like he's a babyface. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the watch is on.
There's legs.
Will Sean reply to my direct message?
It is like what coast is Sean on? Because it might be his bedtime still.
I mean, well, I'll tell you this now. Sean doesn't sleep.
Okay, well, there you go. From the Vince school of
Sean is a robot in some matter. The man does not sleep. But anyway, let's get into some of your Ultra Chats on this, because I'm very curious to see what people think. As I say, I feel like I'm in the minority in this. When the thing with the title of this video first came out, a lot of people said there's a little refresh button you can use.
Huge if true.
Yeah, like that little one there.
Oh, goodness gracious. Can you believe technology these days?
It took me about 6 weeks to find that thing.
And now you're just showing it to everybody. There's a little refresh button there. You're walking down the street showing your iPad to people.
Did you know? I can just refresh this page.
Other tablets are available.
When the stream first went live, a lot of people were like, I like the Dexter thing. And actually, I was going through the comments on today's WrestleTalk News episode where I reviewed one. People were like, I like the Dexter thing. There are some people like, it's not for me. I think that's what it is. I don't hate this. Like, I'm not Pete and Tempest on the NXT review being like, this is actively bad. It's just, the title of this video isn't very good.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is very good television. So I'm curious to see the other side of this.
Yeah.
And of course, we are kicking off with Dexter Lumis' #1 fan, Mayor of Painesville Dan, said, what was this? It was great. Wow. The Hollywood star and his beautiful wife haunted in their hometown, living a perfect, safe life. But here comes the brilliant and amazing psychopath Dexter Lumis. The way this was shot and his aura, I loved it. Can't wait for Dext Week.
That's quite fabulous. I like that, Dext Week. But this is the point. This is what I'm saying. I don't think, if you're reading it like this, the psychopath, he's not good. Like, I'm not supposed to support this person.
Norman Bates was not the hero of the movie Psycho.
Certainly not. And like the thing I compare this to always is DDP, and I'm like, that was very obnoxiously like not cool.
Someone said in the comments, like, the rest of it is like, do you think this is like the DDP story but in reverse?
Yeah.
Like, if anyone wasn't watching the time, they did a story with DDP's first storyline in the WWF.
This is the Undertaker's wife, Sarah.
Yeah. DDP's first storyline in the WWF was he was stalking the Undertaker's wife, filming her from afar, and they would show these
to become famous.
And he was showing these videos on Raw, and it was just like, Sarah getting the groceries or whatever, and then there's be like voiceover being like, "Why are you keeping Sarah away from me, Undertaker?
Yeah,
I want my Sarah."
Do you remember that one where he went into her drawers and found her underwear and an 8x10 of the Undertaker? Just a little headshot, just in case you don't know who your husband is. Just reminder, I'm at work, but this is me.
My favorite thing about that is that people then reverse engineered those audio and found out it was Vince McMahon that recorded it.
Of course it was.
So, like, it's Vince McMahon going like, "I want my Sarah. I'm tired of your gamesmanship, Undertaker."
This is why none of us have been surprised in the past 6 months.
Zach Robinson has been a member for 16 months in a row.
Gracious.
Said the Miz Lumis feud feels like it's been stuck in first gear since the start. To quote Luke and Pete, why won't the rivalry row? It's a great question. And yeah, I don't know if I would say it's been stuck in first gear. I feel like it has had some form of progression.
I also think it's still relatively fresh. Like, it's only a couple of weeks old, really.
Charles Berg, I'd like to think that Dexter Lumis is actually the Miz's brother, and the family won't talk about it. His actual name is Dexter Lumisanen, or Dexter Looms for short. Will it be awful? Possibly, but I love silly nonsense as long as it's low on the card.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Charles Berg, if that is the punchline to all of this, that Dexter's actually the Miz's brother.
Dexter Lumis. Dexter Lumis.
I take back everything I said on this podcast.
They've got the same haircut, but one of them's blonde.
And this is a 5-star angle and will be one of the greatest storylines they've ever done.
I'm here for that. That's great.
All in, Charles Berg.
I'm gonna print that, and then should this happen, we'll frame it.
You've done it again. You've done it now, and you didn't make a big mistake. Riot TR, hey yo. As a long-time Dexter Lumis supporter, I can admit this was on the wrong side of creepy. We've later find out that Dexter simply had a tea party with the children. It will still be creepy, but at least be more babyface and less criminal.
I don't think it would be baby. This is the problem. I think this is where, if they're gonna continue with this angle, they need to be clearer, because this, you're correct, was not babyface, and this is not. And having a tea party with the children is not babyface. But it wouldn't make it more babyface; it'd make it worse.
You know that scene in Con Air where Steve Buscemi is like having that tea party with a little girl in the empty pool.
No,
and it's filmed like it's the creepy. I mean, I was like, oh man, it's
That's
great. 5-star movies, one of the best movies ever made.
Well,
sure.
there you go.
Just Sean Rossap doesn't like Con Air, for the record,
wow.
and I don't know why. It's an incredible movie, but he Garland's there and he's having this tea party, and the little girl starts singing. He's got the whole world in his hands, and it's filmed like with like sort of fisheye lenses and stuff, and it's really really creepy because he is a guy that, in his own words, once drove through 7 states wearing someone's head as a hat. And so like it's meant to be this really creepy thing, like oh my god, what's he going to do to this child?
Anything with children is creepy, and that's why the little girl's singing.
The children were asleep.
Well, this is it. We don't know currently that he was. It would be worse if he did interact with the children, I would argue. If he just dropped off his painting and then went home.
If the children were not in this segment, I don't think I'd have half the issues.
I think this is it. And I don't think you're wrong.
And Rob Steadley has been in Memberg for 4 months in a row, saying, I was really hoping Pete was going to cover this episode because he hates the Dexter Lumis character so much. Lol, he is the face. Miz is always their heel. Love you guys.
I am going to be on a one-man crusade to turn the WrestleTalk team around when it comes to The Miz. I think he is far better than you guys give him credit for.
He's
tremendously entertaining.
Perfectly fine.
He gives 110% every single time.
And is perfectly fine at doing so. Like, you can do
No.
I am adequate at this job, and I put 110% into it. But at the end of the day, 110% still gives you a 3-star performance.
The Miz!
Please do get in the rest of your Ultra Chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. And while you are clicking links, because that one's in the video description down below, head on over to this episode's sponsor, Incogni. Be one of the first 100 people to use our link and get 20% off at checkout. It's a fabulous little service. Protect your data. Protect yourself online. The internet's a scary place. And apparently so is the Miz's house.
I came to play earlier on in the episode where you pointed down here that they could like things. I genuinely was looking.
Look at the desk. Where is it?
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, I understand how YouTube works.
Yeah. So let's get into the rest of this episode of Raw, which opens with Seth Rollins coming out, and everyone was chanting his song, and he's like, I love that people chant my song.
The energy of that as well is great.
Oh, the
crowd was on fire.
Again, he is a heel, but people do react to him like he's a babyface. But Rollins is so great at then making the crowd turn on him, because they enjoy singing the song, but he's like, I'm not a babyface. You need to boo me now.
Well, also his is the kind of character that will allow that, because it's very much his ego trip. I'm Seth freaking Rollins, blah blah blah. If they're singing along, it adds to his messiah complex. But he has disdain for the people, so that was really great. I really liked that.
That was really nice, and he basically said that the Riddle feud is done. I'm done with Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
Stomped him into the ground 100 times over. I'm moving on. I've got gold on my mind. Matt Riddle comes out. He wants another shot at Rollins. They get into a bit of a brawl, a bit of a scuffle. Rollins runs away. And I thought this was a really nice touch. As Rollins is running away, the Judgment Day's music hits, and Judgment Day walk down to the ring. So you've got like a segment with Rollins doing a promo, Riddle run down in the brawl, and then an entrance with Judgment Day. It's kind of like 3 storylines in one.
Yeah.
And then that led to Riddle versus Balor. I thought this was an excellent way to kind of structure the first 10, 15 minutes of your show.
The only thing that was a downer for me is that I don't get Judgment Day.
Oh, no, but no one does.
Well, this is it. Like, and it's like, while you're right, the structure of that is really good. The people involved and like their sort of argument. It was like, are you goths or not? Like, I wrote down spooky jobbers. That's the vibe I have for the Judgment Day. They're like spooky jobbers. They come out, they say some things, but they're not leaning into the gothing. Like, crack on, smile at it. Either be miserable or don't. But like, they're I don't know. And there's a weird. I don't get them. What are they there for?
So, like, the idea was that Edge brought them together because they were like the Iron Misfit toys. They were these losers that he was trying to improve. And I think together they sort of like, we are all rising our own ships.
And they look like that. There was a vibe with that. And then Finn took over.
But he hasn't taken over. They're all the leader. If anything, Rhea Ripley feels like the leader at this point.
Is true, yeah.
She is the daddy of this group. And it was just Balor and Priest. And they cut a promo asking Riddle to join their group because he's a loser just like them. And Matt Riddle said no, and that led to a match between Riddle and Balor. I thought this was very good action. Priest got involved quite a bit. Ray attacked Priest out of nowhere, and a bit of a scuffle. And in the end, What did we get to? Balor hits the 619 because Seth Rollins caused the distraction.
Yeah.
Balor hits the 1916 and the coup de grace for the win, and then Rollins stomped Riddle after the match.
He did do that.
So we are going to get some more stuff with Riddle and Rollins, but we're not. I think next week, because we announced later in the show, we're doing Rollins and Lashley.
Yeah.
Imagine Riddle's going to get himself involved in that.
It just keeps a little pin in there because now Riddle hasn't. They can be separate for a while rather than keeping this going. Yeah. We can still have them have massive beef, but they've both got distractions, and then later on down the line we can have some more. On
my big credit, I've got to give to Triple H, and I've given Triple H a lot of credit because I think he's doing a tremendous job. Yeah, like actually, I mean, the ratings reflect that. Yeah, like SmackDown got incredible numbers.
It's a considerably easier show to watch.
So much easier to watch now, and a really decent show to watch as well. And one of the things I think I give him credit for is that he has revitalized Judgment Day because I think under Vince's watch they were really, really bad. Like you're right. Like I don't think they have a cohesive feeling to them. But at least they pick up wins now, which they were never doing.
And I will say by the end of the show, I did feel more like I was like, okay, now I'm starting to see something about Judgment Day. When they came out and they were talking to Riddle, I was like, oh, I'm not really like so. Like Riddle was like, get out of my way, I've got stuff to deal with, you know.
I think it's an incredible style that they have this because they had this a few weeks back when they opened the show, and I was like, what Judgment Day opening the show? Like, did I accidentally tune into the third hour of this? Yeah. But no, it was the opening of the show, and by the end of it, I was like, oh, actually, no, they do feel like a legit faction. You're right. By the end of this show, I think they did again, although I've got my own issues with that as well. Dominick, speaking of, cut a promo backstage, doing his best to act tough. And then I like this bit where Ripley like leans in, whispers something in his ear, and then Dom feels like he just repeats it verbatim.
I'm here for Rhea Ripley as dominatrix Lady Macbeth. Like that is very, very weird. That's the story. Again, it's a motivation. Whereas the other Judgment Day, I haven't felt like have anything. There's something about her picking Dominick and being like, I'm going to use you as a little toy. I believe she's got something on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something happening with her, and it works for me.
She is his pappy.
Yeah. Now. Well, indeed.
And I love this thing, and like the way that it was shot, it did have this sort of like awkward crossfade, and it did look like it was lit like one of my student movies that I made. But I really liked the sort of presentation of this with the whisper in the ear and then Dominick repeating it. Like Judgment Day as a faction, I think is grand, but this corner of it, this Ripley and Dominick stuff, I think is easily the best thing that this four are doing.
And I found Dominick to be a little bit nothing for so long.
Yeah,
it's so last week when he came out in his sort of like goth goes to prom waistcoat, and then this segment where he's giving a performance, it's still a bit stilted. I'm looking at it like you could nail it a bit more, but like he's still giving it something. It's a bit of something to eat, to chew into. I guess meaty.
Yeah,
I'm into that. Again, later on in the episode, I then pull back a little bit from that. But like, you know, I like this kind of like Eddie and China 2.0 situation.
Oh, if only he comes out being like, you know, dressed to go to prom.
He's already got the mullet.
He has got the mullet. He does need to shave those sideburns. That's a good Simpsons reference. Anyway, Austin Theory cut a promo with Chad Gable because Chad Gable is going to be having Johnny Gargano's first match back.
Yeah, I popped so hard for Johnny Shoosh. That Shoosh kills me. Like, I don't know what it is.
Thank you.
I find it so funny.
Finally, someone with a bit of sense about them to understand that Shoosh is very funny.
Shoosh, please, is hilarious.
So good.
I'm into it. So Johnny Shoosh absolutely destroyed me. I was like, okay, I'm glad there's an ad break now because I need to go for a walk.
Up next for the women's tag team titles, this felt like a bit of a redo because they made an error the first time round. Damage Control took on Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah. Now, when Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez won the belts, Ollie and I did this podcast where we've been like, this is an odd choice. Because they've got nothing going on. No one particularly cares about them. Should have just put it on Damage Control because they're the hot act at the moment.
Also because that's literally what you presented to us.
Yeah.
For the whole tournament.
The whole tournament felt like it was designed for them to win, which is a brilliant thing to do. But they went with the swerve instead and put it on these other people, which I think killed the momentum of Damage Control and did nothing to elevate Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez.
Completely.
And we had people being like, guys, you're judging this too harshly. Give it time. Like, maybe they'll have a good run with these belts. Nope. In their first title defense, they lost it to Damage Control.
And also, there is something about this where it's like, so Game of Thrones, sort of spoilers for the last sort of series, they decided that the thing that they had telegraphed was not as good as giving you a little surprise. And George R.R. Martin has this whole thing of saying, if you have written a story where the butler did it and you have planted all these clues that the butler did it, and then in the final paragraph you reveal it was the chambermaid, your audience is going to be like, what?
Yeah.
You presented us with Damage Control. They were very, you know, they were a cohesive team. In fact, they were the only team in the entire bracket.
With a big match at the pay-per-view.
Former tag team champions Natalya and Tamina were on different teams. Why not? If they're just going to band together, like, do you know what? They were the only team, finally get their big match at the pay-per-view, and they lose? And it's like, oh, was there something where they wanted to keep the tag titles away from that match? But at the pay-per-view, they won. So, like, why would not that make them look even more dominant? It makes no sense.
You have the women's
no logic.
You'd have the women's tag team champions, and the leader of that group has just pinned the Raw women's champion going into a feud with them. Looks like they might have
and
all
by the way,
belts.
love Bayley's whole thing of like, I've pinned you, I'll decide what I want to
match. Love that.
That's a really refreshing difference. There's something about, I mean, at best, Raquel and Aaliyah got a couple of good matches to have some experience. Like, I don't think the matches were good. They had a good experience. Like, they got to go out there in front of people. We got to see Raquel's back a lot.
She does have a back.
She has a back.
Yeah.
She really does.
I mean, my first note is that Raquel needs a character.
Oh, my God.
Because Aaliyah at least has a character, which is, I'm not very good. At least I think that's what her character is.
That is what her character is.
But Raquel's character is, I have a back and a face that smiles.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
She is one-dimensional. And there's a reason why, then. They got zero reaction coming out here. They got zero reaction when they were being working over. Got zero reaction for any of their near falls. And the reaction for Damage Control is lesser than it was a few weeks back before they lost in the finals. I think that was, they swerved. They swerved us, bro, for the sake of swerving us, bro. And I think that was a huge error.
I completely agree.
However, credits, they were like, well, that didn't work. Go back to the original plan and just put the belts on there.
What hasn't helped, though, is that this match was bowling shoe ugly. It was so bad. The last match wasn't like amazing, but it was at least cohesive and there was something going on. Whereas this one, it felt like Aaliyah may have been injured and everybody forgot how to wrestle. And there was one segment where it was like, what's happening? Finally Dakota gets her in a chin lock so that we can communicate what we're going to do next. Tag in Raquel, get that Raquel, and then just call an audible. No one seemed to be able to call an audible. And then everything just went wrong. I thought at one point that Io had landed on her head outside.
That moonsault to the outside was ugly.
Unpleasant. And it's so, that's pulled because it's Io Shirai, it's Io Sky. Like, she's good.
Very good moonsaults.
Don't make them look bad.
She's the genius of the sky.
Indeed.
I'm glad they just put the belts on them.
Yeah.
Sucks for Raquel and Aaliyah. I guess they tried, but
they didn't try.
But they didn't try. Like, Aaliyah lost in her hometown in like a 20-minute match to Bayley. Well, it felt like 20 minutes anyway, where she got one move in, and it was a Trish Stratus move to be like, Trish Stratus is also from my hometown, and then got beaten resoundingly, and then won the belts the following week.
Yeah,
I thought that they did a really poor job with Raquel and Aaliyah, and I think it's hurt Damage Control in some way. And actually, the segment we got later on, I think, hurts that group even further when it's just. Well, actually, we'll save that for when we get to it.
Before we do, can I just quickly say, Damage Control bothers me. If you're going to do it, DMG, CTRL. If you're going to do that,
okay.
Damage Control. Still nothing from Sean.
Still nothing from
Sean. So as far as we're concerned, there is no alignment. He
may be asleep. I may have overshot.
This name drops and the flex didn't really work for you.
Yeah, people are now going to believe that I don't actually know Sean.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
There was a kind of a night-long thing of Ray trying to talk to Dominick,
which I really liked.
I really liked as well. And then Rhea walked in and was like, "Pappy knows best," because she is actually the dad in this situation. And I like this. You know, it's Dominick's real dad and his new dad fighting over his love.
Yeah,
I quite like a lot of that.
I really like that. I mean, I think this was said last week on the podcast, but Ray not accepting it. Ray being like, no, honestly, like I can convince him. It's my son. Like I like that. That's a really nice storyline touch.
What I really liked was Chad Gable versus Johnny Gargano.
Let's get into it.
Who made his return to WWE a few weeks back. This is his return match to WWE. What a perfect person to put him in the ring with for his first match.
Because the thing about Chad Gable is just incredible.
He's amazing. He
doesn't need to be winning. Oh, yeah. He just needs to be on the show.
Yeah, and I said this in my review, like, he deserves a better push than what he's currently getting, because like he is a guy that just has the best match on TV every week but never wins.
Yeah, and the character doesn't feel stupid. It feels fun. Yeah. There's a character, there's an element to it where I'm really like, I'm just into it. I see huge things for him. He's a massive star.
He's so great. And like, this match was so brilliant. Like, the way I described it in my edited review was, this is third on the card on an NXT TakeOver show.
Interesting.
Which is like, it sounds like it's a bit of a damn thing, but it's not. Like, that third on the card match was always like, that was your Adam Cole Ricochet match. That was sometimes a Johnny Gargano match that was just like, possible. It slaps. And you got like on a 5-match card, you're like, actually, that mid-card match nearly stole the whole show.
It's interesting you said, because I wrote down that this was like, it was exactly the Raw match that we need from these two. Like, I don't think we need the 5-star classic that these two can give us. I think we need a good wrestling match, like a decent time, no massive spots. There were a couple of moments where I was like, oh boy, there's some chain wrestling in there that I thought was delicious.
Yeah.
But it didn't need to be a boy popper singer, like the whole thing kick out to all the Johnny Gargano special, like, because it's his first match back on Raw. It needs to be good,
clean, decisive win,
and that's what it was. Can we give I wrote 3 moves down in particular.
Please do.
The propeller spear.
Yeah.
Wait, that was so clean, because that could go so wrong, but they absolutely nailed that. The Gable's German suplex from when he was going to
the big pendulum one.
Oh,
that was the move I wrote down. That pendulum German suplex was chef's kiss superb,
and again so pristine, like such a flow. Oh, so good. And then the spike DDT finish, I was genuinely concerned that Gable was not well. Like, I was like, can I see him move, please? Because he didn't. He just stayed down, and I was like, there's a serious chance he's either concussed or broken. Like, and I'm gonna need to know Gable's okay.
This match was
it was unbelievable.
Incredible scenes. I loved it. I loved everything on it. And he hit the slingshot DDT for the winners you mentioned there, and hit Otis afterwards with a couple of super kicks.
Yeah,
couldn't take the big man down, but I thought this was awesome. Really, really, really loved it.
And it was like this is why he's Johnny Wrestling.
Yep.
Don't forget Chad Gable's incredible.
And to the commentary even pointed this out a handful of times. This would have been a lot of the audience's first exposure to Johnny Gargano, because not everyone watched NXT. Yeah. Not everyone saw the stuff that he'd done on the Indies. This is their first exposure to him.
And we've had him on the show talking for a little bit. We've been presented this guy's a big deal. Yeah. He has a package.
And then he went out there and had an awesome match.
Yeah.
Loved this. This was a 5-star segment. And then it got even better because it then fed into the next segment. Because Austin Theory, who is feuding with Gargano, hits him with the briefcase as he's coming down the ramp. Then he goes down, cuts an outbreak, comes back. He's cutting a promo. And you're like, all right, it's the Austin Theory promo. I'm the youngest Money in the Bank winner of all time. I'm the youngest United States champion winner. Blah, de, blah, de, blah.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens' music hits. And Kevin Owens comes down here and he's like, you're doing the same promo every week. I've seen a lot of guys like you come into WWE and have tried and have failed. There's a way to bury the booking of your talent there, but regardless. And he's like, all the opportunities you got.
But is he wrong?
But he's not exactly. He's not wrong. And he's like,
and we know it.
All the opportunities you got, you were handed them. Yeah. You were handed your US title match, a match you didn't deserve. You were in a ladder match that you weren't supposed to be in. But you know what? I was handed the Universal title.
I really liked that.
Love that. Yeah. That's a nice bit of honesty there. Not a hypocrite is Kevin Owens. And then he says, guys like you've got the good body, you've got the smile, you've got the ability, but you're a dime a dozen. People like me and Johnny Gargano, we're 1 in a million. And it was this hell of a promo where he basically just went on and was like, you keep saying that you are going to be the face of this company, you're the future of this company, but I've not seen that yet. You haven't shown it. You need to step up, get serious, son, and show me that you can be the face of this company. This was an incredible promo, but for me, the brilliance of all of this, because Kevin was great.
Yeah.
I thought Theory's selling of this was
I'm so glad you say that, because that promo is a promo is two people. I always think we kind of watched a little bit earlier on. We were watching Classic Raw over lunch. Like the one of the best seller jobs I've ever seen is when Foley reveals he's Cactus Jack again and Triple H looks like he's seen a ghost, because that moment could fall apart, and it makes me so angry when people laugh at promos. Theory selling this but boiling underneath, but also I know it's true, and I don't like it.
I know you're right.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah,
and I think I know this myself, but I can't admit this to myself.
And I had thought that the promo began kind of a bit stilted for me. There was a little bit of an uncertainty. They were kind of talking over each other. It wasn't quite working. And then Kevin just took it into a whole other gear, joined by Theory really selling it. And then I'm like, what next? What happens next? So then when Theory starts cutting the promo again, I'm like, slap him. And then he basically knocks his eardrum out of his face.
Yeah.
Like, that slap was something special.
The Theory response to this is that Kevin Owens is dropping these truth bombs all over him, and Theory knows this. And Theory's reaction to this is to bury those feelings down deep, and he flexes his muscle, bringing the microphone to his
muscles,
face.
By the way.
Delicious,
they're great.
But highlighting all the things that Kevin Owens was saying about him, and then just like, you're just jealous because you'll never be me. Like, that's great because that's, oh my God, it's a perfect bit of character work for him and it backs up everything that Owens was just saying then, but it's development for Theory. And then they had this wild brawl. Apparently, Austin Theory broke his nose in this brawl.
It was bleeding everywhere.
It was bleeding everywhere. And apparently, like, he suffered a broken nose, but this was so great.
Really
Security runs down, referees run down, break this up. This was an incredible segment. I loved every single thing about this. If I didn't have so much to say about the Dexter Lumis thing, this probably would have been the one I'd have run with as like my main topic.
Because it sets up a lot. Because I mean, they talked about it last week, but Theory trying to prove himself week after week after week, and then running out of time is a really delicious story. Like to give us, because I think Theory is good enough to eventually be the guy.
Yeah,
but you know,
just maybe not at this point. Yeah. And that's kind of what people are saying about. Like I've certainly said about him with Money in the Bank. So him with Money in the Bank isn't a bad idea. It's just he doesn't feel like he is
not yet
at a level yet where he could be the guy that wins that belt. And to show how great this was, later on in the show, they announced it's Owens versus Theory for next week's Raw, and the crowd went mental for it.
Well, because we saw them have a delicious banger last week.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's a rematch. We literally just saw this match. And one of them had a decisive winner.
Yeah. They did say, like, oh, what's going to happen when these two get in the ring? It's like, well, we saw it already.
We saw it last week, but I don't care.
No, I'm okay with seeing it.
I'm okay with seeing this rematch because I've got a new arc to it now. I've got a new reason to get invested in this. I thought this was an incredible segment. I thought that Owens was awesome. I thought the Theory, it's the most interested in Theory I've been in his main roster run that didn't involve a golden egg. I absolutely, I can't say enough good things about it.
I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Yeah, same here. They actually announced something for NXT 2.0. They actually promoted that NXT 2.0 is on this same network.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Very nice. Problem was this show then went on for another hour.
Yeah, I was watching it live and I went to bed and I was like, I'll watch the next hour in the morning because it's been a good show so far. And then I put my coffee. I was like, am I just not awake yet, or is this show boring?
This fell off an absolute cliff in this third hour. Triple H can overcome a lot. 3-hour Raws is not one of them, it would seem. Like, sometimes he gets one where it's like, I think Triple H has worked it out. And then his next week, he's like, no, he got lucky that last week because this still isn't working. This final hour dragged like anything. And it kicked off with Bianca Belair doing an open challenge for the Raw Women's Championship. It was answered by Sonya Deville to zero reaction. Brand split, LOL. This match was only 12 minutes long, but it felt so much longer.
12 minutes was far too long.
Because the crowd were not into anything they did. They popped for seeing a finish, and Belair won.
Yeah, I like an open challenge. I like open challenges very much. I like them if they can, like the John Cena open challenge was great way to introduce new people, big surprises. So I wasn't, if this is going to be a weekly open challenge thing, I don't mind seeing someone like Sonya take her shot. It's an open challenge, you might as well. But then the match, give it 5 minutes. Why give it 12? And I like longer matches, but they don't all need to go that long, especially when they're this dull.
It was boring.
Yeah,
it was a really boring match. Yeah. Some people saying that they do promote NXT all the time. They show video packages, like USA promos for NXT. This is literally the commentators being like, guys, you want to tune in
There is going to be something to watch.
You need to watch NXT tomorrow. That's completely different. And then the segment even fell off worse for me because Bayley comes out. I love Bayley. I am in love with this version of Bayley, by the way. I think she is terrific.
I'm a big fan of Damage Control, even though they've had a...
Yeah. And she cuts out this promo. It's kind of the same promo we've heard from her, though. Yeah. And then Damage Control got on the apron. And who should run out for the save but Asuka and Alexa Bliss?
Cut the camera.
Oh, I'm
this
like...
was not the one.
Oh, I was like, guys...
This is finished.
We are... Yeah. I'm done with this. And then at the end of this, because they stood tall, Jimmy Smith said, standing tall, the night belongs to the EST and friends.
He didn't. I didn't hear that. That's not what he said.
He said it belongs to EST and friends. That's what they are now.
Yeah.
They're and friends.
Can we begin? I'd like here and now. I don't want to be an activist too early in the day, but if I can... start some form of petition to save Alexa Bliss from the sunken place because she is nothing anymore. Like, it's just a figure coming out to do some work. That is one of the best performers. She took that god-awful character and at least committed to it.
Yeah.
And right now,
she's like giving 110%.
Do you know what I mean? And she's just there doing this.
She looks so bored.
Save her.
Because she's nothing. Like, she has no character now.
There is no character. Even Asuka has character because it's Asuka.
Yeah.
You know,
because she's a ball of charisma.
Exactly. Bliska's finished. It finished.
I feel so bad for her. You know. And I feel bad for Asuka in this night. Like, they're just spinning their wheels. Yeah. They're dead weight to this feud. I'm all in on Bayley versus Bianca Belair. Yeah. It's a storyline that makes complete sense. A storyline with characters I like. But these two, I feel so bad for them.
They don't need to be there.
Do not need to be there.
And also, why can't Damage Control stand tall?
Yeah, and just lay her out because they're a threesome unit.
Yeah.
And like I've seen this 6-woman tag.
Don't need any more of it.
I do not need this again.
Alexa and Asuka are not a team.
They're not.
So why would they keep doing it?
This really, really did bum me out because I'm like, I need these three to move on.
Yeah.
I need these two in particular to move away from this because I think it is really, really hurting them and actually just makes me less interested in the Bayley and Bianca Belair feud. Yeah. And I think that sucks. The BT Sport feed didn't actually show the Omos.
No, it did not.
Versus Two Lads match.
Neither did the USA feed.
Yeah, I believe
there was massive technical difficulty.
So no one saw this.
Weirdly worked to its favor because what we saw was Omos walking to the ring, cut, no technical difficulties, and then Omos walking away from the ring with two men just piled on top of each other. That's kind of more effective than watching the Omos match. You know?
So my experience of this was that Omos was walking backstage and it was like, coming up next, it's Omos. I was like, cool, grabbing my rope, fast forward through the ad breaks and stuff. And I cut back and the ad breaks are still going. I was like, all right, fast forward a little bit more. All right, okay, fast forward a little bit more. And then it cuts back and it's Edge chatting with Ray.
Yeah.
And then it went to an ad break. I was like, was that it? Was that the entire ad break? Was that the entire segment of the show?
Yeah. It was I didn't want to see the squash. I don't like a squash match. I mean, I do in places. This one, it was way more effective to see the beginning and the end and not the middle. It actually worked out fine.
So I didn't see it. I'll presume it were boring.
Yeah. Ask the people who were in the stadium. Portland knows. But they were probably too high.
I bet you none of them reacted.
Yeah, almost definitely.
We had that segment with Edge chatting with Ray, and then we had Seth kind of promo setting up the match with Bobby Lashley for next week.
Which I'm very excited for.
Then we had all the Dexter Lumis stuff, and then our main event was Edge versus Dominick Mysterio.
Can I be pedantic?
Please do.
Because this is before the match even began, this really started to get on my nerves. They're selling it on the commentary about how Dominick is making a break from his family history. Dominick is like, too long I've been in the shadow. He's even got new music. And he's got his gear in the colours of Judgment Day. Love that. Great. Why has he got the Mysterio wings on him? If he was really trying to break away, he's still in. He's got new gear made, but he's still using his dad's insignia.
Yeah.
Make that go away.
He's got terrible gear, man.
Awful. And okay, get into the match because I could read.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about the match, really. Like, guess what happened, lads? DQ finish in the main event because Judgment Day diddly dee, and then they stood tall over Edge, which I literally saw 2 weeks ago and saw 2 months before that. This is a feud that is going nowhere. This feud is Judgment Day lay out Edge, then Edge has a match with Judgment Day that he wins.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this since WrestleMania. I'm so ready for Edge to do something else. And this was an angle to write Edge off TV, part-timer Edge. He's not around every week. So when he comes back, what's he going into? Feud with Judgment Day again.
I told me we're not allowed to say bad words.
I know, and I stopped myself. I was going to just say, feud with flipping Judgment Day again.
Yeah.
So ready for Edge to be doing anything else but wrestle Judgment Day.
There's an avenue in this match that you can have some fun. Like Dominick, Dominick is not ready. Like with all the respect in the world to Dominick, he needs to be in developmental. Like he's like not he's in better shape than I am, but I still think he could probably tone himself up a little bit. He can tone himself up in the ring as well.
During this match.
That's what I'm talking about. And then also it's just not believable. I mean, maybe that's a part of it where it's like, okay, just because you've slicked your hair back and worn some purple doesn't mean you are any better than the Dominick you were last week. Rhea's still got to work on you. Edge takes you out. I loved him being crucifixed in there and then Ray coming down. I was like, there could be something here to get Edge off TV between Ray and Edge. Like he maybe goes too hard on Dominick and then storms off, and I'm not going to be everywhere. I'm so pissed. I'm gone.
Adam Pearce, you're suspended.
Yeah, I don't know, something. But no, like you say, the only saving grace for this whole final segment, knowing that we are going to get more of Edge in the Judgment Day, is that we saw them stand tall. It was decisive standing tall, and they looked like a cohesive unit with a plan, which I haven't felt before. Finally, by the end, I was like, okay, they look like a team.
I saw it. I've seen it already.
Yeah.
Because they did this literally like after Clash of the Castle, after Dominick joined them, and they did like an angle. Felt like it was to write him off TV. Then they announced he was having a match with Dominick, and they laid him out when they first turned on him. Like I've seen them lay him out and stand tall. It's going nowhere.
Yeah.
And all it's leading to is another match between Edge and Judgment Day that Edge will win. And I'm ready to move on.
I want other stuff for Edge as well.
I want better stuff for Edge
because he's got a limited time. I think they've been talking about maybe he's got like a year at most left. because granted, he's just come back, but he's also old, and he's also
he's a part-timer.
Yeah, so don't waste his time. Other than the match with Finn, which I would like to see, and I know Finn really wants to have. Move on.
Yeah,
let him do something else.
Which will be the final match of this thing.
Yeah,
he's beaten Priest. Didn't really beat. I suppose he beat Dominick by DQ or whatever, and then he can beat Finn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was a show. I thought this was actually a really decent episode of Raw. I thought the first 2 hours were really, really good for the most part, particularly that stretch with Gargano through to the
second hour was great.
The second hour, excuse me, the second hour was really good. The first hour was fine. Yeah, it was fun. It was fine. But that second hour I thought was terrific.
Yeah.
The third hour fell off a cliff, and all I'm watching was just Damage Control versus Bianca and Friends, which I've seen. It's Omos squash matches, which are going nowhere. And Edge versus Judgment Day, which I've seen and is going nowhere.
Yeah.
And the Dexter Lumis thing, where he stalked some children. I did not get on with this.
If you look at SmackDown and the first 2 hours, Triple H can book a great 2-hour show.
So good. So good at doing a 2-hour show.
Nobody can book a good weekly 3-hour show. I don't believe it's possible.
No. On this show, he booked a very good 2-hour show here.
I think so,
that went 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I gave the show 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it was. I mean, which is so much better than
so better than it was been previously.
3 hours sounds like damning with faint praise, but it was better.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Well, we've got to give a shout out to some very, very special people here on the WrestleTalk Podcast channel, our Patreon backers. Over on Patreon right now is the the WrestleTalk mailbag, which is me and Adam going through your questions about the wrestling world.
Okay.
And this Wednesday, you have got the WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes podcast, which is myself, Ollie, Pete, and Tempest, taking you behind the curtain of WrestleTalk. We talk about the Clash of the Castle party, how we got a legal letter from WWE about it.
Did you?
We did, yeah. I'll tell you about that. I know. We go into a whole load of things around that event, how the event came about, and whether we'll do more of them. So that'll be live for Patreon backers tomorrow. Also over on our Patreon is next week's episode of the Monday Night War, which started yesterday on partsFUNknown. So if you enjoyed the draft day episode, you can go and watch episode 1 right now, along with me and Pete talking about our draft day episode on a podcast.
You taking Slapjack was so rude. I really felt for Pete in that moment. I really did.
I didn't even want him.
No, I know you didn't. That's what made it worse. It was purely for the bit.
It was worth it, though. But we've also got to shout out, the Hall of Fame music returns, everyone, because I put it back up. And you can now hear as I shout out these fine folk who backed us at the $25 level or more. The heirs of the throne, Kate Ayers.
Up above and Keith below.
The Knight Rider, Kit.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore. That's great.
Le Meilleur
au monde.
Le Meilleur au monde. I know, but I'm very bad. Le Meilleur au monde. Links the Sun.
Pick him up, Loot Sponge.
Manipulating Manny Umaria.
Too lot to handle, Lottie McCullough. Yes,
did I? Oh, yeah, sorry, I did. How do you like them apples, Marcel Jura?
Marcus, he's got soul, Campbell. Great. No, that's a great joke.
It's good.
I needed to read it out loud to hear it. I like that.
Have a glass of sherry, Martel J. Simmons.
Nice. He's got 2 first names, Matt Howard.
That is our Hall of Fame class here for the 13th of September, 2022. Thank you so much to those Patreon backers. Check out patreon.com/WrestleTalk for all of those great goodies that I was just mentioning there.
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much. Let's get into the rest of your Ultrachats. We've got a few more on the Dexter Lumis situation from Riot DR. Said, based on Lumis's run in NXT, the punchline may be that every member of Miz's family starts to love Lumis, and only the Miz sees him as the creep. I recently watched What About Bob, so the idea is fresh in my head. Side note, would love the brother twist.
That also sort of ties into the idea of him playing with the family and things like that, integrating and that would be kind of interesting. Yeah,
there could be actually some very funny visuals there of Dexter Lumis with his gloves on, his murderer's gloves on that he's got.
Slow dancing with Maurice.
Yeah, while the kids are sort of walking around being like, oh, Uncle Dex is so funny. And the Miz is being like, the guy's a psychopath. What is going on here? That could actually be quite good.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Jay O'Feller's been a member for 7 months in a row. Said, afternoon, lads. I'm not going to sit here and have you slander my man Dexter.
Thank you.
All jokes aside, hope you guys are having a great day. Jam that jam.
Indeed.
Riot DR on the subject of the women's division says, to play devil's avocado, Raquel is being booked like Diesel in his WWF title run, always winning and smiling. Well, Riot, that worked out so well for Diesel's WWF title run. Triple H refuses to give up on Aaliyah, who is trying to be fair.
Yeah, but don't give her a title then yet.
So Aaliyah was in NXT for what felt like an eternity.
She was in Breaking Ground. Do you remember Breaking Ground, the show? She had a whole episode arc.
Really?
Yeah, that was a great documentary, by the way. I really enjoyed that on the network.
The only one I remember is Baron Corbin going to gigs on his own.
To do that, yeah. There's also it was the running arc of the whole thing was not Tyler Bate.
Tyler Breeze?
That one. Not being able to get on the main roster and then finally get to the main roster. But there was a whole episode where Aaliyah... And this is the funny thing, I just realised. In Breaking Ground, Aaliyah wasn't good. The whole arc of the show was that she wasn't very good yet. Oh my god. Anyway, yeah.
Different note, Sonya Deville may be the most underwhelming wrestler on the roster. That's not true. You just mentioned Aaliyah.
Yeah, I like Sonya Deville. I just think that was bad.
Chris here says, I want to ask why it was Sonya in the match. Why not Alexa or Asuka? Put on a good competitive match. I'd have really enjoyed that as well.
Like an open challenge if it continues, but you know.
Yeah.
Also, there could have been an argument of like, I helped you out a load with the damage control people, and that would have given Alexa or Asuka a reason to be out there.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, much better.
You really nailed it. Well done.
And Chris said, Alexa hasn't had a singles championship for over a year. I don't think that's a problem.
No.
You don't have to always be a champion. But yeah, so you come down to say the two. I've got good faith in Triple H, but you've got to do something with Alexa. Could not agree with you more on that. She needs something so much better than this. I will hot tag over to you, starting with Garmonro.
Where?
Have you hit the little refresh?
Oh, hello. Your favorite refresh button.
Yeah.
I see it. Good news for you, Owen. Based on WWE logic, we will probably get a 6-woman tag Dominick and Bianca and Friends. Bianca and Friends is the best name. I'm obsessed with this. At Extreme Rules, probably in a no DQ match. Yeah, I completely agree. That's probably almost certainly what's on the line.
Because we're in an era of no rematches, apart from all those rematches that we're having.
Yeah. Go down to the Raw chats.
Yes, please do.
Look at me trying to figure out how iPads work. Kevin says, Kevin Owens, prove me wrong, Austin, prove me wrong. Do you get the reference?
Yeah, I'm trying to place what it is, but like all I can hear is prove me wrong, Austin, prove me wrong. I can't place who it is. I feel like it's Benoit, but I don't know if it's Benoit.
They'll tell us in the chat.
They'll tell us in the chat. Thank you.
While you keep an eye on that. Gargano versus Gable and KO's promo were the highlights of the show. The rest was fine. Sonya answering the open challenge was so anticlimactic, though. Yeah. Again, the first week of an open challenge is allowed to be open climactic if it's going to carry on.
That's it. If this is a weekly thing.
If this was just a one-off, weird. Riot DR says, wrestlers and aspiring wrestlers, please make sure to purchase wrestling gear and clothing that properly fits, i.e. drawstrings and sports bras for wrestling. Adjusting your gear during the match is distracting. Dominick and Sonya, one of my peeves. Completely agree on this. I actually spotted it when we were watching Classic Raw. Grandmaster Sexay and his do-rag was really starting to get on my nerves. Gear that fits, please. And by the end, they're standing tall and Dominick's shirt is completely sideways. Yeah, no, thank you for being brave enough to say that out loud. And Slick Rob says, when Rhea whispered in Dom's ear and he repeated, I'm not your little boy anymore, I kept expecting him to follow that up with, I'm her little boy.
I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy.
Well, that is all of the Ultrachats. Thank you all so much for those. And thank you to this episode's sponsor, Incogni. Please do click the link in the video description down below and you can get 20% off your order at checkout if you are one of the first 100 people to use our promo code WT Podcast at checkout. Thank you so much to Incogni for sponsoring this episode. Dan, thank you so much for doing this episode as well.
I just have to say thank you so much for having me. I've had such a good time.
It's been a pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
In my new iron. I'd like to plug in my new iron at home and iron my shirts when I get there.
Click the subscribe button. Press that thumbs up button while you're at it. We'll see you on. We'll see you on Thursday. In fact, me and Ollie will be doing the. Oh no, me and Ollie won't be doing it. Me and Tempest, because Ollie's on holiday this week. Me and Tempest will be reviewing AEW Dynamite, which has got Chris Jericho versus Danielson.
Yeah.
It's got Moxley versus Sammy Guevara. The winners of those are going to have to face a Grand Slam to be the new AEW World Champion.
AEW being backed in a corner and then coming through. I'm here for this, by the way. Like, you push them, you know, make them scrap and they'll come back. This is
It's been a rough few weeks.
Interesting.
It's been a rough few weeks for AEW. But it'll be me, poor old Tony. But me and Tempest will be reviewing that on Thursday here on the podcast channel, and then on Friday it'll be the Blackpool Content Club with me, Tempest, and maybe Pete.
It's a great name.
Thank you very much. If Pete is well enough, go and send everyone well wishes to Pete. By the way, he's not been in since Thursday because he's just not very well.
He's been poorly.
It's been very
poorly,
very
Pete.
Poorly Pete, and Andy Dance has not been well either. So thank you so much for watching. I have been Luke Owen, DAD. This has been the Professor Dan Layton, and that was Wrestling Jam That Jam.